Virgo, welcome to your June reading. So we've been talking a lot about how Gemini season is a mirror, and basically it mimics everything you do and it brings out of you the truest parts, the thing you cling to when you don't know what to do, what you fall back on when the earth beneath your feet gets shaky. So to give you an example, when Gemini is confronted with the mirror, it acts like it doesn't see it. When Cancer is confronted with the mirror, it wants to claw and grab at it, make it do what it wants. When Leo is confronted with the mirror, it wants so very much to become the mirror, to become the reflection. But you look in the mirror and you do what you always do. You see. You see what could be better. You see what has to be fixed. You see what you've been doing, how it's been going, and how it should have been going. You are intensely critical of that which you have accomplished and that which still remains. If you allow this feeling to get on top of you, June gets very hectic because as of June 5th, Venus will move into Leo. So if you are a Virgo rising, that's in your 12th house. That's right behind you. So you're already feeling super critical, right? Because you have the sun in Gemini. So it's mirroring you. And then you have Venus moving into the part of you that you can't see. That's the 12th house. Everyone else can see it, but you can't see it. And what that brings forth in you is this ability to deeply, deeply criticize without having any grace for where these behaviors and these beliefs come from. You can be so hard on yourself. You can be the worst critic. And you usually are, right? That's your energy. But when it's mirrored back to you and intensified in this way, you can lose sight of things that are really important to you, things that you would like to continue to focus on and pursue. But June makes you feel like you haven't done enough, you're not going to be able to do enough. Why'd you even try this? And then when Venus moves into your 12th house, then it's, or right behind you, then it's, I don't know why you did this, but I don't have a lot of patience or a lot of grace for this. If you have a love interest or you would like to further a love relationship, this is a great time to do so. And if you're dealing with a Gemini specifically, you might want to be very careful in the bedroom, unless you're wanting to start a family, because chances are very high that in that lover's department, you can get serious quickly. Maybe more serious than you would like. The Empress is also that, being pregnant with ideas, being full up with all the abundance that you know that you deserve, that you know that's coming to you. And it is. June, the end of June is very beneficial for you work-wise, money-wise. You just have to be a little bit careful towards the beginning of the month, because even if you do engage in romantic behavior, someone that is an established partner or someone from the past, someone that's casual, it can have long-reaching consequences. So we just want to be very careful. And you have a tendency, when you feel stressed out, even especially by your own criticism, to go and seek this kind of pleasure in an almost reckless way. We want to be really careful to not do that in June. And if you're thinking, well, I've been doing that for a while. Yeah, I get it. You've been doing it for a while, but don't do it now. This mirror isn't necessarily for you to sit and criticize yourself all day long. This mirror is there to show you, amidst the criticism, the things that you're missing, the things that you should be holding on very tightly to, that have to do with self-worth, they have to do with value, they have to do with how you're being valued at work or in a work environment. Maybe you've changed jobs, left jobs. You're trying to figure out within the realm of value, like where your boundaries are, like what do I really bring to the table? How much can I ask for? How hard do I really work? And if you start using the mirror in this way, not to be necessarily critical of self, but to create some space between work and self, which I know is difficult for you, and then just look at work as its own thing and say, what could I objectively be doing better without this added trauma of like taking yourself to pieces for it. I think if you are able to look at things a bit more objectively and not so personally, what you'll find is that the solutions are pretty simple. And what's been tripping you up for months now about being able to sort this out is just that your ego keeps getting in the way. You keep experiencing hurt feelings, basically, because of your own judgment, because of your own assessment of things. And there is this like repeating, like, I could do this better. I should have done it better. Why didn't I do it this way? I know better than that. And when you're doing that on your own, it's bearable. You do it all the time. But when you've got a mirror in front of you and everything you're doing is bouncing back at you and getting concentrated and hitting you again, it's too much. You know, being alone, being lonely, isolating yourself won't help because the mirror is always there, right? You won't be able to get away from it by getting away from people. So it's important to be able to use it in a way that is beneficial and not destructive, productive. And here, the way that you can use it is to really honestly assess why you work. You know, some of you are going to come to the conclusion that you work just to work. Some of you are going to come to the conclusion that like you really are not inspired by your work at all anymore, right? There are many, many different versions of the obligatory Virgo work ethic that come into question now. And it's very healthy, I think, because your ethics might be a little outdated. I know this is a really touchy conversation. This is so much more touchy than talking about love. This is like, this is your bag. I'm not crazy about getting in this with you, but maybe your ideas about work are a little outdated. Maybe you work too hard for nothing. Maybe sometimes when you're working, you're just running around in circles because it makes you feel better about like getting it done. And maybe there's something more than that in life. Maybe you're supposed to be inspired. Maybe it's supposed to be fun. Maybe even when it's fun, you can turn it into something that's not fun and you need to stop doing that, right? How can you take this intensity and not use it to hurt yourself? How can you take this intensity and not use it to behave in questionable ways that end up harming you in the long run and shooting yourself in the foot? You're going to want to do both of these things. You're going to want to take yourself to pieces, and you're going to want to go out there and do some probably sexually destructive stuff, self-destructive stuff. And you have like a fervor about it, you know, because you get in your head, you get locked in your head early in the month, and then it's just like, and it builds and it builds. And then you do that thing where you just go ham and like, you know, fuck it, like forget it. I'm going to do everything. I'm going to, you know, and then it goes from like love to hate to pain. And then we're back here. But that's okay. And I'll explain to you why. This mirror has this secret quality that you will not understand until you get to the end of the month. Gemini energy, when it's all said and done, wants you to love yourself because it loves itself. And so even though you go through the motions of seeing all these different reflections of yourself, especially when it comes to work, even if you see things that you don't necessarily like, even if you take yourself to pieces, even if you don't take my advice and you're really, really critical of yourself and like beat yourself up all month, you're still going to come out of it at the end of June feeling better because you have perhaps for the first time in your life confronted the idea that your work is not your identity. And June is going to show you that your work is not your identity so many times over and over again that you're finally just like, Like, I really want, no, but I live for this. Like, this is what makes me, no, it's not. I'm sorry. I know it makes you feel good. I know it fills a hole. I know it's like, you know, it lessens the despair of the void. We can get as existential as you want. I know what work means to you, but June is here to teach you that you can be that passionate and that driven and that dedicated and still not have that be the thing that defines your value and worth. And the reason this is important is because, you know, when things are going well and your work is amazing and you're full up and you feel great and you're very confident and you're very, you know, personable and you're not the hermit at all. You're out here. But when things don't go well in work, which is, again, this subjective thing, it's something out here. It can go well, it cannot go well. It's not always going to be up to you. But when things don't go well, the way that your identity takes a dive, that sense of self, that self-worth takes a dive, there's very few things that actually do that to you. You're not one of those people that when relationships go bad or when interpersonal like stuff goes bad, that you immediately think to yourself, oh, it's got to be something wrong with me. Not necessarily. You're not like that. I mean, you will have like a much more fair and balanced assessment of me, like, well, they did this and I did this and I can see how. But when it comes to work and money, oh, all the blame falls squarely on you. This is about your self-worth. This is about how you're not good enough. This is about you. And it goes like really fast. And before you know it, you've got no energy. You don't feel like being around anybody. And there's this dissonance because what you're thinking is not reflective of what's out here. So you also have that to deal with. You also have to deal with the fact that you are now in a headspace that doesn't reflect reality at all. And somewhere in there, you know it, but the despair takes over. So surprisingly, after the despair takes over, the fact that you still come out of Gemini season feeling so great, I'll tell you why. Because you've been feeling like this for so long, especially in regards to like, where the fuck is my life going? That when you have that moment at the end of June of like, yeah, okay, like work is really important, but I'm so much more than that. Why have I been limiting myself and like really playing it small in this way? When you have that epiphany and that realization, you know, descends on you, that's when what you've been carrying for so long actually hits. So the only way I know how to say this is, you know, it's like when your kid doesn't call you and you're worried and you're worried and you're worried and you're worried, and then they call you and then they're fine. And then, you know, it hits you like the fear, the everything, and then you're crying. And then because before you knew, you couldn't let yourself feel all that. You have to keep going. You have to push through. You have to, you know, you got to make it happen. You're a Virgo. You got to make it happen. But once you have that moment of like relief, once you can feel that you're out of it, then you feel all those years that you were in it that you've just been ignoring. And you're like, oh, wow, damn it. I've been walking around just like stabbing myself in the heart. Like, how long have I been doing this? And as you have this set of realizations, money, work, everything starts to smooth out. By beginning of July, you're thinking, could this really have shifted so powerfully just from my mindset? Yeah, that's it. It's all up here. And you got so much of this. Use it, baby. I love you. Let's look at these cards.